Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. I killed Jason Todd and all I got was this t-shirt, aka get ready for a Joker review. A lot of you guys know that I love Joker and have been requesting a review of the movie Joker, which came out recently. So I did go see it and I wanted to do this review video for you guys. So let's go ahead and say, spoiler alert, 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 spoiler alert. This review will have spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie and you don't want spoilers, go ahead and X out now. Otherwise, don't be leaving no comments about how there were spoilers in this review because spoiler, 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 spoiler alert. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, this video is going to be done in the good, the bad, and the ugly format. So we're going to start out with the good. I really enjoyed this movie. I feel like if you are a fan of the Joker, like I am, I've been a fan of Joker ever since I was, a young child. I was actually given a graphic novel that I saw in a comic book shop over the summer, and I got like a little bit emotional. I was given a graphic novel that was sort of like a collection of the best Joker stories, and then I was also given The Killing Joke, and I always loved Batman. I was given those things because I always enjoyed Batman. I was really into the Batman movies. I was just always super into like Batman, and so I was actually given the Joker stories as a gift because someone thought that I would enjoy them, and I just like fell in love with the Joker as a character, and also the concept of Joker as this sort of mirror image of Batman and this sort of, kind of perfect foil to Batman. It's almost like Batman has this idea of Gotham as a place where there are good people that I guess you could say like need protection, and Joker has this idea that Gotham is a place full of fucking shit people, and fuck Gotham and fuck these people, and I'm gonna show you, the true nature of society and the true nature of the person and the true nature of the citizens. And it's almost like, and like Joker's kind of not wrong, because like even if you look at Batman, like Batman is a very dark character. Like he's a grown-ass man that dresses up in a motherfucking bat costume to fight crimes and beat people up, and he does that shit because he enjoys it, right? Like, he enjoys doing it. He's suffering from a lot of unresolved trauma from childhood, seeing his parents get murdered in front of him and falling into the well. And, we all know the story of Batman, but there's always been this kind of like interesting duality between Batman and the Joker. And again, the nature of good and evil and the perspective of who's on the right side. That kind of depends on your perspective, right? So if the perspective that we have generally been presented with is that Batman is the good guy, right? And Joker is the bad guy, and we kind of go with that. But recently, as of late, especially, for example, in The Dark Knight, which is Nolan's Batman film, well, part of his trilogy, which was Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, where obviously we saw Heath Ledger portray the Joker. We kind of got tipped into this other perspective, which I feel like most Joker fans can relate to this perspective, which is that the world is chaotic, society is a sham, right? Even within the world of Batman and within the world of Gotham, we have somebody, Bruce Wayne, coming from the Wayne family, which is like damn near a motherfucking monarchy, right? Like they run the whole city, they run the whole town, they have all this money, they have all this global reach and global influence, and it's sort of like, is this fair, right? Meanwhile, Gotham is falling into a state of disrepair. There's all this poverty, there's all this unemployment, there's all this crime. And there's always been this kind of little like wink, wink, nudge, nudge joke that it's like Bruce Wayne has all this money that he could sink into like city infrastructure and like social programs and initiatives to improve things in Gotham, and instead he chooses to dress up as a bat and fight crime as a vigilante, right? Is that really the right thing, right? And we're presented the perspective of that it's the appropriate thing, that it's the right thing. And so Joker has always kind of represented this idea of chaos, of anarchy, of, society is not, the way that our society is set up is fucked up. Like, it's not something that we all want to choose to believe in. And is Batman dressing up in a fucking bat costume really doing anything, especially when he has this much money and power at his disposal, right? And so for a lot of us, Joker has always kind of sort of represented that type of concept. And we saw that fleshed out a bit in The Dark Knight, where again Heath Ledger plays this just really morally ambiguous figure of like, I'm gonna put people in situations and we're gonna see how they react, right? Now sometimes the people reacted in a certain way that proved that Batman was right and there was the good in people, like when he fucking put the prisoners on one boat and when he put the Gotham citizens in the other boat and waited to see if they would blow each other up, and they didn't. But sometimes the Joker put people in situations to see what they would do, and they made the wrong choice and they did the wrong thing, like the storyline that ended up playing out with Harvey Dent and how he got corrupted and turned into Two-Face. And so it's just sort of like people have to decide for themselves what path are they going to take, because we do live in a world and a society that tends to be corrupt, right? Our power structures, they're racist, they're sexist, they're hegemonic, all these things. So maybe that seems like it's going a little bit deep, but that's what it represents to me, and I know that's what it represents to a lot of the fans. And so this movie, Joker, is really, I would say it's the first movie that I've ever seen like this that is, in fact, a character study of a villain, and especially a villain like Joker, where you really kind of delve deep into the makings of this character and this iteration of the character, and not only that, but how he also got people on his side, right? Because that's something you never see. You're watching a movie, even a little silly, movie, and there's a bad guy, and the bad guy has like henchmen that are willing to do whatever the bad guy says, and you never really get the backstory or the idea of like, how did this like obviously bad person or this obviously deranged person or this obviously violent person or whatever you want to call it get like all these people like on their side. And so I thought it was really, really brilliant to do a character study of a villain and to not only just show how they sort of were born or came to be, but even how they got people on their side and got people to sort of see their perspective and to see their side of things. So the filmmakers were inspired specifically by the character study movies of the 70s, and this film definitely has a sort of gritty, I feel like I hate using the word gritty these days because it's like a little bit overused, but kind of like that gritty sort of neo-noir, hyper-realistic 70s vibe, even though the film itself is set in the 80s. So Arthur Fleck is a man that is living with his mother in Gotham, and we all know that Gotham is supposed to be representative of New York. His mother is ill, and he takes care of her. He works as a clown for hire, basically, through this company that's called Ha-Ha's, and basically, people call this company up Ha-Ha's when they need a clown for something. So when you need a clown for a birthday party, or when you need a clown for, like, entertainment, like, they send out clowns to like entertain children at the children's hospital, which ends up being a plot point later on. When the movie starts, he's actually working in front of a store that's going out of business. He's like a sign person. I know you guys have seen like people standing in front of a business like with the sign, and they like spin the sign around and like throw it up in the air and do tricks. And he's like dressed as a clown. And in those opening scenes, he actually gets attacked by a group of kids on the street. And they really brutally attack him. They steal his sign. They beat the shit out of him in an alley. They break the sign and they rob him, right? I was so angry. I hate that. I hated that scene. I hated it in the commercials. I hated seeing it in the theater. It just really hurt my feelings. But he's a clown for hire. And he's kind of on thin ice because he makes people uncomfortable. So he has issues with his mental health, and he also suffers from a neurological condition that kind of causes him to laugh at inappropriate times and sort of laugh like uncontrollably, like we see it occur on a bus. He like gives someone a card that explains, I have a condition that causes me to laugh inappropriately, but it's like I'm not like laughing at you or anything of that nature. And we also see him having sessions with a social worker that asks him, like, oh, how are you doing? Like, how are you feeling? Are you feeling negative thoughts? And he's just like, my whole life I've never felt anything but negative thoughts. I've always sort of struggled with my mental health. We find out that he's on 7 different medications that are funded through the social services program that he's in, which at a certain part of the film, the funding gets cut to the program. The city cuts the funding, and he's no longer able to go to his sessions, and he's no longer able to receive his medication that he needs, right? And so, again, the Wayne family could like single-handedly fucking fund all of these programs and fund all of this shit in the city. And I feel like in this movie, which was like a super fucking interesting interpretation to me, I have to say, Thomas Wayne is framed as the bad guy almost. Like, there's definitely a critique being made of capitalism. There's definitely a critique being made of wealth inequality, of wealth disparity. There's definitely a critique being made about people that don't have access to the funds to get the things that they need, like their medication or therapy, or social services. Again, like his mother is very sick and they're struggling. And then you have the Wayne family, you have Thomas Wayne, that are these like super fucking billionaires that are like going out to the theater, motherfucking living it up, and, going on TV talking about how they're going to run for the mayor and this, that, and the third. Like, it is very, like, Trump adjacent. Like, Thomas Wayne is definitely portrayed as, like, Trump adjacent. And I will say that I think that for people that are fans of Batman and are used to the more sympathetic portrayal of the Wayne family and Thomas Wayne especially as like the good guys, I think that type of thing is going to make them uncomfortable. But again, at the end of the day, it is sort of this hyper-realistic take and character study. So I was very pleased that they sort of had the balls and the guts to take that perspective and to kind of run with it. So basically, Arthur Fleck he's troubled. He has a lot of problems. He's kind of just trying to keep his head above water. After he gets attacked in the alley, one of his coworkers, one of the fellow clowns, lends him a gun, and he says, you have to be able to protect yourself. Like, it's fucking crazy out there. It's hard times, and people are ripping themselves apart. They're ripping themselves to shreds. Again, I think this is the kind of movie that was made very purposefully at the times that we're in, the socio-emotional times, the socio-political times, the late-stage capitalism. And again, I think that that's going to definitely make some people uncomfortable, because this is not like some comic book escapist fantasy. This is not like whiz-bang type of violence, like none of that. So I'm going to probably like keep reiterating that for people that haven't seen the movie, or for people that have possibly like read reviews or heard reviews criticizing, I feel like it's maybe too realistic, or it's too this, or it's too that. I feel like, I will say that I feel like this movie is art. It's an expression, and it's clearly meant as an expression and a critique and a commentary on the times that we are living in now via the vehicle of Joker, this fictional character, and sort of drawing the parallels between our actual real world and this world that they have created, this version of Gotham that they have created. So I will say that I think some of the critiques saying, is this going to incite violence? Is this an irresponsible portrayal? I think that stuff is extremely unfair in terms of mass violence and mass shootings. White men go shoot shit up all the time. They shoot up Ariana Grande concerts. They shoot up fucking grocery stores. They shoot up fucking movie theaters. They shoot shit up all the time, okay? We all love to go see John Wick, where he kills 25 people in 5 seconds. We all love to go see the art house shit like fucking Midsummer, which has people being like cut open and like all types of shit. But like this one, I think, is an actual fucking socio-political commentary on the times that we're in right now. And now all of a sudden people trying to come with these, they crossed the line. No, they crossed the line and made you uncomfortable. You need to look inside yourself and figure out why that shit made you uncomfortable. Like, are you on the wrong side type shit? But I'm off on a tangent now. So he receives the gun from his coworker, and he carries the gun on him at all times for quote-unquote protection purposes, including taking it with him to his next job, which is at a children's hospital. He's dancing around. He's entertaining the kids. The gun falls out. He gets fired, right? There have already been several complaints about him kind of making people uncomfortable. Again, he has this condition where he laughs at the wrong time, and he's just kind of like, I don't want to say he's like a creepy dude, but he's different from other people, and he's struggling with his mental health, and that type of thing makes people uncomfortable. And for me personally, I really appreciated seeing that on screen. It was something that I could relate to. Act normal, which is sort of a tagline of the movie, and a line that we see written in, he has a book, a journal that he's supposed to keep for his therapy sessions, that he also writes his jokes in, and his jokes, his comedy, are very, very dark, which is sort of the basic tenets of theater. Laughing and crying is flip sides of the same coin, right? And he has a line that's like, the worst thing about mental illness is that everybody wants you to act fine, and act normal. And it's like, if you're not acting normal, quote unquote, people's idea of normal. If you're upset, if you're fucking angry, if you're sad, if you can't sit still, if if you're feeling this range of feelings that doesn't fall inside of what people think is normal or the way that you should be acting, it makes people fucking uncomfortable and they don't want to be around you. So he gets fired from his job at Haha's, and then it's just kind of like a slow descent down into him becoming the Joker. His mom regularly writes these letters to Thomas Wayne, and she's like, I don't know why he won't write me back. She used to work for them. She was a nanny for their family, for the Wayne family. She's like, I don't know why they won't write me back. And he's like, you worked for them like 30 years ago. Like, why would they write you back? I don't understand. And one day, and she always gives him the letters to mail out because she never leaves the house. One day he opens the letter and she sees that she's written in the letter that he is the son of Thomas Wayne. Spoiler. And I found this to be a fucking brilliant, inspired, super inspired twist. Because, again, the concept of the Joker has always been as this sort of mirror image, this sort of foil to Batman. So the concept of them actually, like, even being brothers, and one of them is on one side and the other one of them is on the other side, I feel like that really adds another layer and another dimension to the concept of them kind of being, these twin images of almost, like good and evil, or the perception of humanity, or the perception of society, the perception of chaos, And again, I kept going back to while watching this film, I kept going back to The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's portrayal, and I kept going back to Jack Nicholson, also his portrayal of Joker, because Jack Nicholson's portrayal of Joker was the first fully functioning homicidal performance artist, and I felt like that was a lot of the footsteps that we saw Joaquin Phoenix walking in with his dancing and with his comedy, and his it was like this artistic expression almost, in the makeup and the clothes, and this I'm expressing how I fucking feel about the society and about the city of Gotham and about the state of things and about what happened, and it was almost like I'm a being of pure expression. I'm a being of chaos, right? I'm an agent of chaos. There's a line in The Dark Knight where Heath Ledger says, everybody is perfectly fine when everything goes according to plan, even if the plan is terrible, right? If you find a gangbanger dead by the side of the motherfucking road, nobody fucking blinks an eye, right? But if I blow up a hospital, now, everyone loses their minds, right? There was echoes of that in this movie as well. Like, he was saying, he was leaving his very last job, and he's riding on the train home, and he's like in his clown get up or whatever, and he started like uncontrollably laughing, and he got attacked by 3 white men, rich, wealthy, fucking people that work for Wayne Enterprises, that before they fucking attacked him, they were harassing a woman on the train, real bro, hey bro, and then they turn on him because he seems like a pitiful little pathetic nobody, a fucking clown, right? And they attack him. He has the gun on him, right? He kills 2 of them, and then he like kills the last one. Now, apparently there's no cameras. It's almost like kind of hard to conceptualize, because now we do live in a surveillance state, thanks to technology and social media. It is kind of hard to conceptualize, like, oh wow, yeah, there would be no cameras on the train at this time period. And like, yeah, I see why like the train and the subway and shit was like so dangerous to ride, because like anything could kind of happen, and there was really you had to just have like a visual eyewitness or nothing. But it is very much like, he kills them, and the people, the public opinion, they take his side, because it's like he killed these fucking fat cats, these fucking capitalists, right? We're fucking struggling. We can't eat. We can't do shit. People are like, I'm glad he killed those motherfuckers. And he kind of like, when he did that, he kind of like got into the minds of the people of the city of Gotham. And then as the movie progresses, we see that idea grow, which also, again, kind of reminds me of art and expression. You express an idea, you get it to the minds of the people, and then it grows. Now, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's horrible, whether it's, all of that is sort of left up to chance, left up to interpretation, and left up to the intention of the person. but we see it grow. People are like, I really don't care that these 3 rich ass fuckers got killed, because when that hooker got killed last week, that was somebody's mother or sister or aunt, nobody cared. When somebody was put out of their house, nobody cared. But now we all supposed to be sad that these 3 rich fuckers got killed. And Thomas Wayne coming on TV talking about, oh, the people that are jealous of those that are more fortunate than them are clowns. And now we can see the discontent growing, and now we can see the unrest growing, and now we can see the idea of, again, this sort of agent of chaos coming from The Dark Knight, that terminology growing as the movie progresses, and we can see how the Joker gets the people on his side. So there's a subplot that's related, where he wants to be a stand-up comedian, which is why he also writes the jokes in the joke journal. He gets a chance to do some live stand-up at this club called Pogo's, and unfortunately he can't get his laughter under control for it, and the clip ends up kind of quote-unquote going viral for that time period, because it gets showed on this talk show that's hosted by Robert De Niro. And then they end up inviting him on, but basically they're inviting him on there to make fun of him, because they even showed the clip, because he was like, oh, everybody thinks, that they can be a fucking stand-up comedian, but he's not getting any laughs, whatever, they put him on there to make fun of him. And they invite him on the show, and this actually ends up being sort of the climax of the film, is that when he goes on there, he fucking tells them all about themselves. He's like, you only invited me on to make fun of me. All of y'all are in the audience, you guys are here to make fun of me too. The whole society is a fucking joke. Everything that we're fucking doing day to day in our lives is fucking funny, fucking hilarious, because it's all a joke. It's all some bullshit. But and he admitted that he's the one that killed the 3 dudes. He's like, but I killed those 3 dudes and I'm supposed to feel bad. Fuck them dudes. They fucking attacked me. I don't give a fuck about them. And then he fucking kills Robert De Niro live on air. And he just kind of really whips the city up into this frenzy because of what he represents to them, right? And I feel again, I think what's making people uncomfortable about this movie is the use of violence. It's not overly violent. It's not overly graphic. It's not overly explicit. There's no explicit gore or anything like that. But I've seen people say they feel it made his actions, too relatable. But I feel the whole point of the Joker as a character, again, has always been how close anyone can be. All it takes is one little push. All it takes is one wrong move. All it takes is one bad day. All it takes is, one moment in a lifetime of bullshit for somebody to go left and become the Joker instead of go right and become Batman. And that's always sort of been the underlying meaning of the character, and I think they really took it to a great place with this film. I'm not saying that I advocate for people fucking going out and murdering people on live television, obviously, but I think that this movie taps into a very real feeling that people feel in their day-to-day lives, of being downtrodden, of being unheard, of being the odd one out, of being the one that always makes people uncomfortable. People were saying they're not sure how they feel about the portrayal of mental illness, but I thought that it was handled very carefully and very respectfully, just me personally. I don't think that he was made a spectacle of. I didn't feel like there were any negative connotations of all people with mental illness are going to become homicidal maniacs. It was a character study of one character and of one person, and and it's not a real person, obviously, it's fucking Gotham. So, and I felt like they really accomplished what they set out to do in showing that, madness is the emergency exit, and all it takes is a push. And I do think that that's very real. You have this sort of perfect storm of situations that occurs that leads to him becoming the Joker, and I think it was portrayed A1. And how I feel about people that feel disenfranchised, again, it's sort of even though Batman is also a criminal, he's a vigilante that breaks the law, but just sticking with the Batman and Joker sort of metaphor, I do feel like you have sort of, I could say you have 3 choices. You have the choice to do nothing and just continue on in your day-to-day life. You have the choice to try and do better and work for a better future and work for a better world and do whatever you can to help others, which I guess you would say was like the Batman. And then you have the third option, which is to just burn everything down and just destroy everything. And that's sort of like the Joker option. And that's sort of up to the individual human of what choices they want to make for themselves. Like, I know me personally, I guess you could say, like, I took the Batman option because I decided to dedicate, you know, my life to ending capitalism, or to the liberation of Black bodies, or to spreading knowledge, spreading awareness, helping people wherever I can. That's something that I decided that I wanted to do with my emotions of being fucking angry as fuck about shit that was going on in the world, right? And that's something that people have to decide for themselves. And I feel like maybe this is like pessimistic, but I do feel like you're also always going to have people that choose to go left instead of right? Like, you're always going to have your Voldemorts, right? And you're always going to have your Dumbledores, you know? It's kind of up to you, which one are you going to be? From a technical standpoint, obviously, the film is amazing. The quality is very crisp. Again, it's very, you can tell that they were inspired by the 70s. There's a lot of really kind of rich, muted color palettes, like a lot of burgundies, a lot of kind of mustard colors, a lot of forest greens. There's a lot of again, like the city, the you know, late 70s, early 80s New York, with which is Gotham, obviously, right? Like with the graffiti and the clothes and the hair and the dirt, you know, the kind of grimy nature of it. But the film itself is not dark or muted. It's very crisp. It was very crisply filmed. The cinematography is great. The camera angles and the use of the shots, there's a lot of long takes, you know. There's a scene where he like climbs in his refrigerator, which is like one long uninterrupted take. He's like pulling shit out of the fridge and like pulling out the fucking shelves and shit, and then he like climbs in the fridge and like closes it, and then it just like sits there like on the kitchen with like him in the fridge. Tons and tons of shots like that. I would say the best scene is a scene where, so after he kills the 3 businessmen, the police suspect that it's him because people saw that it was like somebody wearing a clown mask or dressed as a clown, and then this like clown mask, this clown face paint symbolism becomes a symbol for Gotham of kind of like rising, you know, of anarchy and like rising up against the status quo in the city. And so these 2 detectives are trying to find him because they think that it's him. And there's a scene where they come to his house. At this point, he's already killed several people. He's already gotten fully, basically embraced the fact that he's going to be a villain, that he's done with everything. He no longer fucking gives a fuck about shit. So he's like fully embraced like his Joker persona. He's like, that's the scene where he's like dancing on the steps and he has the makeup on and the suit and everything. And the police see him because they're outside his apartment and they start chasing him. He runs away from them. He runs across the street. He gets hit by a car. He keeps running. He gets onto the train. It's the day of a rally. All these people on the train have either the clown mask on or they have the makeup on. The police get on the train with him too, but they can't exactly tell which one is him because everybody has the makeup on and everybody has the mask on. So they're just kind of trying to like find him by the clothes, and the train is very crowded. And he's moving through the train, and it was just an inspired scene. And the fact that the camera follows from outside of his apartment, follows across the street, follows him getting hit by the car. There are cuts. That's not one long continuous take, but there are no cuts in the timeline of the footage. It's kind of like shown in real time. So he like runs down the stairs, he runs across the street, he gets hit by the car, he gets up, he keeps going, he runs into the train station, he runs down, he gets onto the train. We see the police following him. They get on the train. You know, he's moving through the train. He's opening the doors. He's getting onto the next car. The police are following him. The people on the train, they don't like police because the police in Gotham are motherfucking corrupt, the majority of them, and they're in the pocket of the Wayne family. They don't like what the police represent. They get all up in the motherfucking police face. One of the police officer, one of them has like a gun out because he's like looking for Arthur. He accidentally shoots one of the clown people on the train, and then all of them fucking surround the police officers and attack them. And then the doors open, and they all kind of spill out, and they're beating the fuck out of the police officers, and they're like, you guys don't do shit in Gotham. There's crime everywhere. You know, there's like nothing is working in Gotham. You know, and they're like beating the shit out of the police officers, and they can see Arthur. They can see him, and he like can see them on the ground, and he's just standing there watching. And it's just like he birthed these people. He birthed this whole situation. They went from pursuing him to they were the ones being pursued, and they were the ones, you know, being attacked because of a situation that Arthur specifically created. Like we really see this idea of discontent take hold in people and grow into anarchy over the course of the film. Very inspired, very brilliant filmmaking from a technical level. The choices that they made, again, with the camera angles, with the direction, with the cinematography, with the color palettes they used. The wardrobe was really, really nice. I appreciated that. It all felt very, very true to form, very realistic. I enjoyed that a lot. So let's get into the bad. Some plot points that I feel like we're kind of like towing the line. Like there's certain things that happen that I feel like, well, I don't know, did they not have metal detectors in the 80s? I feel like they did, you know, maybe not in the 70s, but he takes guns in certain places. Like he takes a gun in a hospital. He takes a gun on a television set. He takes guns in like various places. And so I kind of feel like, well, they're leaning maybe like a little bit more heavier on like the 70s side of things. Yeah, they were developed in the 60s. I just looked it up. I feel like they would have been in use by the 80s. It says the first law to regulate the use of metal detectors was in December 1989. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like there are certain aspects of it that you kind of have to like suspend your belief a little bit to be like, how did he get a gun in there? Or he kills his mother, he like suffocates her in the hospital, and it's just like, she's hooked up to like an EKG machine and it's like monitoring her heart rate. Like, why would no one come in when her heart her heart rate starts going down, and then he just like suffocates her, and then he just like walks out like nobody. There are certain things that are very much surreal, and we also learn that Joker Arthur is an unreliable narrator via a completely extraneous, pointless subplot with Zazie Beetz. I definitely feel like her whole role in the movie made absolutely no sense. I do not understand why she was there. She plays his neighbor, and he ends up going through the majority of the movie with the audience believing that they're dating, right? Like he meets her and her kid in the elevator. He tells her that he's a stand-up comedian. He invites her to one of her shows. She comes to the show. She likes the show. They start dating. When his mom has a stroke, she's like with him in the hospital. They go on a few dates, you know, like. But then you find out later on when he goes in her apartment one day that she doesn't know him. She doesn't know him at all. Like, she's like, what are you doing in my apartment? You need to leave. And we figure out that, like, all the stuff that we thought we were seeing between the two of them throughout the movie was, like, him, that he's delusional. You know, it was, like, very much Mr. Robot. Like, oh, I can't motherfucking trust anything you say as the narrator of this story because you yourself don't know what's going on. However, the thing about having that type of plot with an unreliable narrator is it is true that, like, now, number one, you can't trust anything you're seeing. So it's like, did he really suffocate his mom? Did he really kill the three dudes in the beginning? You know, did he really do these things? And if we're led to believe that he did really do those things, which we are, what is the point of Zazie Beetz being in the movie? She adds nothing to the movie. She doesn't move the movie along. All their interactions end up not even being real. Like, when you start messing around with unreliable narrators, you have to be really careful to not make your audience feel like you're wasting their time. And all the fucking scenes and the parts with Zazie Beetz was basically just like spinning wheels in the film. Like, all those scenes could have been cut, and that could have probably been like 20, 30 minutes of the movie motherfucking gone right there. So I think it actually would have made more sense for their exchanges and their interactions to actually have really happened, because then maybe that could have been setting the scene for like a sidekick character to come along, you know, later on down the road, if they decide that they want to do that. I don't know if they have any plans of like moving forward, but they do some setups. Like they show the creation of Batman, like they show the death of Thomas and Martha Wayne, and they actually show Alfred, you know, so they do show other little things to kind of tie it into the Batman universe, or however you want to call it. So I think it would have been better if Zazie Beetz's, you know, plot line had really happened, of her going to the show, even though he bombed the show. Maybe she thought he was, there's like, the sun is like going down, so that's why there's like this light, sorry. Maybe she went to the show and, you know, even though he was like received really poorly and he wasn't funny, maybe she found the show charming, and then maybe they really did end up dating, and maybe she really did have an understanding for what he was going through, and she really did kind of like end up on his side, because she's also sort of like a disenfranchised member of society. She's portrayed as a single mom. I think that actually would have been a little bit more interesting than kind of giving us the bait and switch with an unreliable narrator, because now you've just wasted our time with the character, with shit that never actually happened, with a character that serves no point to the plot. It's like, oh, you did all that to show us that, that Arthur's delusional? We already know that. Like, we already know that he has problems. It just seemed like a waste of time. That really bothered me. So I don't have any ugly for this film. Again, I just felt like the inclusion of Zazie Beetz' character was completely superfluous. It made absolutely no sense. It did nothing for the plot. Like, it didn't do anything. Even if the point was just to show us that he was an unreliable narrator and he was delusional, I feel like that could have been accomplished in a different way. Especially considering we do find out later on that his mother was also committed to Arkham Asylum for having some personality disorders and for bizarre delusional behavior. And that she was also abused by a boyfriend, and he was abused by the boyfriend as well. But even though there is a flashback scene where she claims while she's in Arkham that her son is not adopted, and that her son really is Thomas Wayne's son, and that he used his family's power and money and influences and connection to get her put in Arkham wrongfully, and to fucking sort of forge and like stage this whole like fake adoption to fucking hide the fact that Joker is really Arthur's kid. Like, if that, like, that's a twist that's really up for interpretation. Like, if you choose to believe that she's just delusional and that she really did adopt him, or if you choose to believe that that really is, you know, his kid, they kind of leave it up to interpretation. But I didn't like the whole Zazie Beetz subplot. It felt pointless to me. I didn't like that they kind of used that to show that he was like delusional or an unreliable narrator. They could have cut all that out. The movie skewed a tad bit long. It was like over 2 hours, so it's like you could have cut her whole subplot, and I think that would have like really cleaned the film up and like moved it along quite a bit. But other than that, I really enjoyed the film. Like, I don't have like any ugly. There was nothing really egregious that stood out to me about, you know, oh, this was like really bad. You know, I thought it was a great film. Again, a great character study of a villain, which I don't believe we've ever seen before live action. Maybe Brightburn, which I saw recently, and it was just way too graphically violent and gory, and the storyline didn't, you know, kill me. It wasn't as well made as this one, and again, this was just really diving into the psyche of this person and showing the journey that turned them into who they are. And I don't know, people were saying like, oh, it's too relatable, it's too this, it's too that. It's like, again, ultimately, at the end of the day, people have to make the choice for themselves of if they're going to go left or if they're going to go right. I don't necessarily believe that this film is going to incite or inspire violence or incite or inspire anybody to become a villain or anything of that nature. But even if it did, I feel like that says something about the nature of the society that we are living in, that people will find this shit to be so true to our real lives that they will do it. And I think that's the more important thing to focus on if you're going to make that type of critique or complaint about the film. Because what does that say about the state of our society and the state of our world? And I feel like that was some of the stuff that they were really trying to get you to think about with this film, which I really, really, really did appreciate. Really, really, really wonderful film. I enjoyed it a lot. I highly recommend it if you're into this type of thing. There was not a lot of, like, again, there's no action. It's not an action movie. All the violence is basically like him shooting people, and he like stabs one person, and it's not like no John Wick, like bang, bang, bang. It's not like no Batman beating people up, or, you know, the Batmobile or anything like that. Again, it is a character study of people and situations and how they react, which has always been a draw of the DC characters, the heroes and the villains for me. So I killed Jason Todd, and all I got was his t-shirt. Joker review. Have you guys seen Joker? Let me know what you think in the comments. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.